Aloha. I wish I was in Hawaii right now, but I'm not. But here is a document we're going to create today. Up to you. You could use Photopea or Photoshop depending on where you're at the moment. But this is what it's going to look like when all is said and done. And you're going to start by downloading and opening the beginning PSD file. So this is a file that I've already placed the images on here. And to put the images in, I went to File, Open and Place, if I'm in Photopea, or in Photoshop, File, and Place Embedded. And when those are brought in, they're going to have little icons in the corner. You might recall those are called smart objects. And the cool thing about smart objects is if they're really big, they automatically come in no bigger than the screen, I guess you would say. And then if you make them bigger, as long as you don't get like bigger than they were to begin with in the actual program, they're not going to lose quality because they're smart. So kind of better to put them in that way. But the problem with smart objects is when they're smart objects, you cannot do destructive things to them. So you can't go up and make them a special color, and you can't erase them without rasterizing them. And so we'll do that together. I think I'm going to work in Photoshop for most of this, and I'll flip over to Photopea if anything is different, just so you can see. I'll definitely do the gradients in Photopea so you can see them. All right, so we're starting off, and the way this is going to look at the end, let's look at the finished one again. We've got 3 copies of Aloha. We've got 2 copies of this, actually 3, there's another one. And then we've taken the background off of this little image here. So let's start off by making our copies, our duplicates, because we should know how to do that. So home base is the move tool. That's that top button. And we hold down what key to duplicate? It's the Alt key. Okay, so I'm going to hold down Alt and drag. Oops, I forgot what layer I was on. Okay, so we got this one here. Now remember, you can choose to auto-select if you want. Probably would want to on this because it'll be easier. So that you can just automatically click. Oh no, so you can automatically click on stuff and be able to select it. Now, did you notice my background just went crazy? That's because my background is not locked. So you might want to, especially if you put auto select on, you're going to want to lock that background. So I'm going to click on my background layer and I'm going to click on this padlock so I cannot pick up. Matter of fact, if I try, it will kind of yell at me. It won't do it. It won't let me do it. If I go to Photopea and I try to do it, so I can put my auto select on here. So there it goes. I'm going to undo and lock it. In Photopea, if you try to move it, it'll sometimes it'll yell at you. It'll be like, no, you can't. Well, it didn't this time, but anyway, so just be aware that you're probably going to want to lock that background just so you don't accidentally scoot it around. Okay, so I've got 2 copies of that. I'm going to hold Alt and drag again to put 1 copy up here in the corner. And then I need 2 more of this one. So I'm going to Alt drag for 1 there and Alt drag again so that I have 3 of these guys all together. And then just kind of layer them like so. And I don't care if yours looks exactly like mine or not. Okay, if we look at the finished file, there are some color differences between each of these Alohas. So we're going to deal with those first. Now let's go find them over here. And you could put these in a layer group if you wanted to, make a folder. So how do we do that? Well, I can click right here to make a folder. Let's say I call it Aloha. I'll double click it. Aloha. And then I'll just scoot it down here closer to those. And then I just drag them up and put them in there. Drag that one, drag that one, drag that one. There's like a little line that scoots up. And then I can actually hide all those if I wanted to. I'll go do that in Photopea just so you can see it in both. So let's say I'll do it with the blue flower. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and make a copy. Let me get there. Let me auto select. And we'll Alt drag, and then we'll Alt drag again. And then let's say I want all of these to, yeah, I can't grab a hold of it in the transparent area, by the way, as you can see. So here, same thing, hit the file folder. I'll just call it flowers, and just drag them all in there. You have to make sure they get in there. Sometimes they just don't go. There we go. See how they indent? That's how you can tell they're in there because they're indented. And then you can close them out. So up to you if you want to put them in a folder or not, but it might be good to get used to putting things in folders just, to keep things straight. Okay, but we're dealing with the Alohas. So the front Aloha we're going to leave alone. We don't want to do anything to it. I'm just going to turn it off. The middle Aloha is the one that in the example is going to be tinted all blue. So to tint an entire layer, which is destructive, which means I cannot do it to a smart object, I'm going to have to rasterize this. So you can right click the layer and you're going to say rasterize layer. This is done the exact same way in Photopea. So if I was doing this in Photopea, I would right click the layer and rasterize the layer. So same situation. And you know, you'll kind of figure it out if you try to do it and it won't let you. You know, that's probably because there's something about it just doesn't like. So now that it's rasterized, it doesn't have a smart object icon in this one anymore. And now I can go up to image and adjustments. So first off, we're going to use, for everything we're doing right now, we're just going to use a black and white. So it's going to first turn it black and white, and then we're going to tint it. So I'm going to tint it a shade of blue. And notice it's not like turning very blue because it's not saturated enough. In Photoshop, you have a saturation button so you can increase the blueness, like to make it more blue based on that saturation. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. In Photopea, it works the same way. It's just a tiny bit different. So if I were to do that here, I would still go to Image and Adjustments, and I would still go to Black and White. However, I don't have a saturation to deal with here. I do have Colorize instead of Tint, and then I can come in here, find a blue, and then come over here and choose a shade of blue. Hit OK. And then the one step you have to do additional in Photopea is it doesn't know what to colorize. Now, this picture had a lot of blue in it and a lot of pink and all that, so we've got to turn up some of these until we get it to change. Oh, wait. Let's back up here. I used a smart object, so it's not doing it to the smart object. You know what? I'm not going to back up. It's okay. Let's rasterize it first so you can see why it's not working. Okay, now I have it rasterized. Now watch when I do it. Image adjustments, black and white. There we go. See, now it changed colors. So again, I didn't rasterize it, so it got mad at me. Now I can adjust these sliders if I want to adjust how much of the pictures are getting how much of the blue. So right now it's turning the blue parts that color more than the other parts, for instance. Okay, so we've got that in there. I'm going to hit OK. And again, I don't care exactly what yours looks like, but that's how that looks in Photopea. So again, if it's acting weird, probably means you forgot to rasterize. All right, I'm going to turn this one off. Let's deal with the third one now, the back one. Again, it's a smart object, so we're going to need to rasterize it first. And then we can go into Image Adjustments. And on this one, we're just making it black and white. But you can move these around again, like that black part. If you want the bluer parts to be darker, you can pull this in, for instance. And then you have like that darker black look. So it's totally up to you. All right, and we don't have to hit Tint because this time we're leaving it black and white. So just hit OK. All right, now let's turn them all on, and so there we go. We've got our black and white one, we've got our blue one, and we've got our original one. So the original one can be a smart object, it's fine. It doesn't have to be. But the other ones kind of cannot be, or we can't add that image adjustments and changing that color there. Okay, now let's come look at these flowers. So these two flowers need to be mirror images of each other. So the first one is fine, but the second one needs to flip the other direction. So let's see, riddle me this. Do you remember how to transform? So showing the transform handles is going to put handles on them, but that does not give us, when we right click, our transform controls. And we need to get to the transform menu. So to do that, you're going to have to press Control, and if you're in Photoshop, it's Control T. If you're in the other program, it's Control Alt T. Okay. So now I've got it. Now I just simply right click, flip horizontal. And now see, that one's going that way, that one's going off that way. Okay, the next instruction, basically, if we look at the example, and you can look at the finished one on canvas, is to make those kind of look 3D. That's a bevel effect. So click on one of those flowers, hit your FX button, and go to bevel and emboss. And that gives us sort of that 3D look. Now, it just depends on what the settings are over here as to how 3D-ish yours looks. You can mess with the size. You don't want to turn it up too much or it doesn't even look like a 3D thing anymore. But you can mess with that size a little bit, and there's some other things that you can also mess around with. But I'm going to hit OK here. And then let's go ahead and go to the other one and add a bevel to it as well. Bevel and emboss. And oops, I'm already on that one. Let's click on the other one. All right, there we go. All right, so we hit OK there. Now we're going to change the color of this other one. Now this was a picture, so how can we change the color of a picture? Well, that's another layer style. So this first one over here, we're going to leave alone. And then this copy here is the one that we're going to change the color on. So let's click back on FX, and there's another one on here called Color Overlay. And that lets you change the color of something. Now, it's not like a tint. Like it straight up makes it that color. Okay? So I'm going to click on here. Notice it's going to try to make it black. I want to make it the color of that little flower. So click here on the color box. And then you're going to come over, and it's going to turn into... In Photoshop, it's going to turn into an eyedropper. You don't actually see the eyedropper in Photopea, but it's still doing the same thing. But you're going to click on that flower so that the new color is this color, and you're going to hit OK. And you should see that color overlay in here as well. And now we have a matching one. And again, in Photopea, if I'm doing this same thing, the FX button, I'm going to put a bevel and emboss on it, and then again, I'm going to put a color overlay on it. This one's wanting to be red to begin with. Oh, I don't think I kept my original Hawaii on here to steal that color from. I'll steal it from this one over here. So I'm going to click here. Whoops. I can't get there. I can't get to the sun. Okay. Oh, I still can't get to the sun. Almost. Okay, there we go. All right. That won't be fine since I don't have the top one on this one. Okay, and so that's how the bevel and emboss work in the color overlay. So it's exactly the same in both programs. Okay, the last one up here is in kind of a rainbow pattern. So that is what's called a gradient overlay. I'm actually going to do this in Photopea first. So I'm going to come up here to the final flower. And when you're adding layer styles, you can leave them as smart objects. You don't have to do anything fancy to them. So I'm going to come up here, give it the same bevel and emboss, and it just uses the same one it just used, so you don't have to really mess with it. But this time, we need to have it be a different type of a color up here. So we don't want a color overlay. We want a gradient overlay. Gradients are lots of colors. Now, when you immediately put in a gradient, it makes it black to white. It does that in Photoshop also. However, if we click on this little button to edit it, in Photoshop, there is I think it's a down arrow here, just like this, and we can choose like rainbows and stuff like that. And so in both of our programs, we can hit the down arrow to access all these other colors, see? But in our case, we want to start with the black and white one because we're going to choose our own colors. We're going to pull them from this little guy down here. So we're going to pick 4 colors from this image. So to do that, you click on the actual color box. And then down here, and this is how it works with gradients. Gradients on the bottom, so not the top. On the bottom, there's little boxes. Those are called gradient stops. If I click on this, I'm on this stop position is what they call it. But basically, I'm clicked on here and it says this one's black. What color you want it to be? I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to come down here with my eyedropper that you can't see, and I'm going to sample this green color, or whatever this color is. I'm going to hit OK. So now I've got that part of the gradient. And then I'm just going to click in here anywhere to set that second gradient stop down. Click here and then pick, the yellow or the orange or whatever that is. And then hit OK. And then I can choose, again, another one. So click back on your stop, put another one in there. So I could do like the pink area. And then I can put that last one that's already in there and choose, instead of white, the purple area there. And hit OK. And as far as how these look, you can scoot them apart and make them closer together to get it to look more like what you like. You can also save this. If you click Define New, it should, I could hit OK first. If you define New, it adds this as a style, and then we have it like in here to pick from, as long as we don't like exit Photopea. So that's important because we're going to use it again in a minute, and if I click Define New, then I actually have it in here. So I'm going to hit OK. I've got this one in here, and now I'm going to be able to use it on my name, which I'm going to put down here at the bottom. Now let me hop over to Photoshop so we can take a look at this process in Photoshop. So here is my flower, here is my FX, here is my bevel emboss. I'm going to pop that on there first. Then let's go ahead and add the gradient overlay. Now sometimes in Photoshop they disappear and you can't find them. Don't know why, but you have to come down here and find it. So gradient overlay, here it is. I'm going to click on it. Same thing, we can choose like a black to white or whatever we want to begin with, but then down here at the bottom in Photoshop is where your color stops are. So same story, I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. I'm going to click the first stop, click down here, choose this color. Create a second stop, click down here. My third stop, click in here. It's a little faster in Photoshop because you don't have to come down and click this button every time. And then here. So now I've got them all in there. Again, I can move them around a little bit if I want to scoot them apart. By the way, if you mess one up, you just drag it down, like just throw it away. Just like, bam, and that one's gone now. And then I can click back to put that one back in there. Okay, so now again, I can save this one here. Just hit new, and now it's in here. It's in my list. Okay, so now we've got it. I've got my bevel, and I've got my thing in here in Photoshop. So basically, the concept is the same. As long as you understand gradients and you understand gradient color stops, you're good. Okay. All right, so now we're back in here. Let me turn back on, oh well, Photopea is not where I've been working, so I guess I'll go back to Photoshop. But that's okay, actually, because both of these are going to be a little bit different. So now we're going to remove the background of this little guy. So this is Hawaii 2 layer. Now we need to erase the background, and this is a smart object, so we can't without rasterizing. Okay, so right-click the layer in the gray space, rasterize. And now I'm going to grab my eraser. We'll use background eraser this time. I'm going to get a pretty decent size one and try to knock out most of this if I can. So I'm going with about size 40, and I'm just going to kind of click in the middle here. There we go. That's working pretty good. Uh-oh, I knew I was going to get too close somewhere. There we go. It's kind of hard to know exactly where that center point is the whole time. There we go. Okay, decent enough. So there's that one. If we look at the finished file, and I'll pull my canvas page over so you can see. If we look at the finished file here, there's a big old orange deal going on around that. What layer style is the big orange border? What is it? It's called a stroke. It's a pretty big stroke too on the outside of this one. So we're going to put that on there. That's a layer style, so hit your EFF if you're in Photopea or your FX button if you're in Photoshop and go to stroke. All right, and then again, I pulled that color from this image, so I'm going to click on the red and then come over here and steal one of these orangey colors. I hit OK. And then just kind of match it up to whatever you think looks kind of like the example. I'm not too caught up in it being exactly the same. Okay, I'm going to press Ctrl-0 just so I can look at it. That looks pretty good, I think. So we've got that going on there. Our last item of business, and again, I don't have that first, let me copy that so at least I can see the other aloha in the front. I'm missing the black and white one on this one because I didn't do it on this one. But anyway, okay. Our last thing is going to be to add our name. I also didn't flip this and so forth. So let me go back into Photoshop. Photoshop, you can use the magic eraser, which is cool. So I'll show you that one this time. So I'm going to rasterize this layer first. So right-click, rasterize the layer. And then, oops, my zoom is on minus. And then we're going to click and hold the erasers, and we can choose the magic eraser. And magic eraser is cool. I should be able to just click 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam. That's way better in Photoshop. Okay, so we got that done, and then we would add that stroke on here. Same story as the other one. You're going to put the stroke in there, decide whether it's inside or outside. It went around, so we'll do outside. Pick our color, and okay. All right, so that looks the same. But we're going to add now our name. So our name's going to go up here, and it's going to round around the top. So if we look here, your name is around the top. It's got a black border around the letters, and then it's glowy. And it's in a shape, and it uses that rainbow, right? So we have like a lot of things happening here. So let's go ahead and see. Oh, I guess that actually I used the orange color from this. Either way, it's fine. Okay, so to add your name, you already know, you click your type tool and then come up here and just click. And you would, oop, mine is a really big font here, so I'm going to go ahead and size my font down to like a 36 or something. So there's my name, Tanya. I'm going to hit OK. Go back to my move tool to my home base, and then I want to warp this. And to warp it, you got to be on the type tool again. So click on the type tool. The warp button in Photoshop is a T with a line underneath it. It tells me it has to do something. You're just going to say okay when it comes to fonts. And then here we go. So I'm going to choose to warp this one. Can't recall which one I said to use on here. Let's say arc, upper. Nope. We'll just do a whole arc. There we go. Yeah. Okay, whole arc there. And you just want it to, it already kind of does. You kind of want it to match the flow here of your circle. Okay, good enough. It's pretty close. All right, so there's that. We also have to put a line around the edges of it, and we need to add the rainbow. So let's go add the rainbow first. I'm going to click here, Gradient Overlay. If we saved it, it should already be in there, and there it is. So that's good. We need to add a stroke, just a tiny one, tiny black stroke. That 2 looks fine there. And then it's got a glow around it, so I need an outer glow. I can't see it in Photoshop, so I'm going to go to FX and outer glow. And then I need to make sure I can see it. So it's kind of hard to see. I probably need to add some spread. There we go. Spread and size until it looks good. All right, good enough there. I think the example one is yellow, so you could change your color here and make it more of a yellowy color instead of a white, but that's up to you. Okay, we hit OK. Control 0. This looks pretty good. My font's pretty big compared to the example, but that's okay. In here, let's show you in Photopea. Again, we're going to take that type tool, give it a click. It's going to take a second to load. Type your name in. Hit your check mark. If you can't see it, feel free to go ahead and change the color, although you're going to use the rainbow, so it isn't going to matter. And then, of course, if you want to pick a thicker font to make it easier to see, you can go that route. Move tool, move into place. Type tool, warp button. Choose which one you want. I think we went with arc. Looks pretty good. Hit OK. And then again, take that move tool, put it into position. Let's go ahead and zoom up a little bit so we can see. I'm pressing my space bar right now to get my hand tool so I can scoot this over so I can see it better. All right, then layer styles, EFF, the layer style button. It doesn't really matter here. You can put them whatever. I'm going to do the gradient first. Again, it remembers it because we just did it. We'll hit OK. Or you can go ahead and add the others. We need to add a stroke. Woo, too much. So we want a black stroke this time. And just a little stroke. There we go. That's good. And then an outer glow. And again, spread and size just to get it to where you make sure that it's visible. You want to be able to tell there's a glow on there. All right, we hit OK. I'm going to Control 0 and take a look. And again, this one's missing some parts because I wasn't doing this one all the way through. Here it is in Photoshop, and this is basically what yours should look like. So you should have this one in full color, this one tinted blue, this one black and white. These two are mirror images of each other, both with bevels. This one getting the color from this flower. This one over here needs to have a customized rainbow gradient that we took the colors from this bottom picture, also a bevel. This bottom image we took the background off of. We had to rasterize it to be able to erase it. And then we added our type at the top. We warped it. We added that same rainbow gradient that we created, a slight black stroke and a glow. And that's basically it. So when you finish it, you would definitely want to make sure that you save it. So if you saved it at the beginning as, say, Hawaii 1, I'd save it at the end as Hawaii 2. Mine's Hawaii 3 because I have numerous versions going on here. And then to turn in assignments, we would export them. Remember, that's File, Export. In Photopea, you would just simply go straight to JPEG and export it. In Photoshop, you have to go to File, Export, and then Export As, which is where in this program, we can tell it JPEG. And then this is the file that you would save as your finished file. So if I was going to save this one, I would call it Tanya Finished Hawaii or whatever. So I know it's the finished one that's ready to submit or whatever. So there you go. That's a good review there. The next assignment I won't be walking you through. So hopefully you've made notes about these various items and you are confident in your abilities. I'm going to give you one to recreate in our next lesson. So good luck with that.